Hello and welcome to episode number 112 of Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show we're talking about Extraordinary, Doom from 2016. We'll look forward to this week's new releases and the streams happening over on twitch.tv/Shaunosaurus First up on this week's show, we'll go in alphabetical order, which is also coincidentally in chronological order. We'll go all the way back to the year 2016 and the release of id Software's Doom, which is a great game that I really enjoyed. I obviously am playing this because I'm very excited for Doom Eternal. I never finished this game for whatever reason. I think I got to maybe the second or third level in the game and just quit. I looked at the save data and it was last played January, July 4th, 2016. And I was like, I just totally dropped off of this game. I messed around with a bunch of the multiplayer for whatever reason when they reset the progression stuff. The multiplayer is nothing to write home about. It's just a pretty generic team-based multiplayer with a Doom skin on it. There's a couple of interesting ideas in there, but you're not missing anything because it's dead. There's nothing going on. I tried to launch a match. I sat there for 2 minutes. It's waiting for 3 other players. Can we get 4 people? And there's just nothing happening, which is totally fine because the single-player campaign is why most people are here, and that was awesome. This game does a great job of just being a video game where you just run around and you shoot shit and you blow shit up and you're killing demons, and it's gloriously over the top and ridiculous in all the best ways. There's a story there that will pull you through. It's very basic. It doesn't interrupt the action very much, which for me I found to be really great. The overarching plot is super simple. You awaken, you have to take care of a demon infestation on Mars. You meet a couple of characters, Samuel and Vega. They have to stop somebody from opening a portal to hell. They end up creating that portal to hell anyway, so then you have to go to hell and then close the portal and then go back to Mars, but then something else happens. I don't really know. It's super basic. It's there if you want it. One of the things people talked about a lot when this game originally came out was, even though that story is thin that you're kind of forced to watch, the cutscenes that happen in front of you, the dialogue that's given to you that you can't escape. There's a lot of world building done in the codexes, which are little things that you can pick up. So they really flesh out the characters, they flesh out the story, they flesh out the arc there. This is a game where I'm totally fine with that. I love that if you put it on a slider, it's a way more just a gameplay slider than it is a story slider. That's fantastic because this game plays super well. It's super fast. It's super smooth. It looks really good. And it's just a total blast to play. I did notice that the beginning part was a little bit slower, where it's more of walk through a corridor, deal with a couple enemies, get to a bigger arena fight, walk through another corridor, get to a big arena fight. And it kind of does that a little bit over and over again. And I was a little worried about it. But as the game picks up, and especially after you return from hell and all literal hell has broken loose, I noticed that you fight a lot more frequently and the enemy density is a lot more intimidating. They bring in bigger enemies, tougher enemies, and there's a lot more of them that make the fights a lot more interesting and actually challenging. And I really like the way the game ramped up. This game does have a lot of upgrade systems to it, which I was very surprised with. You have runes that give you abilities that you can upgrade. Those increase your amount of ammo that you get from demons that die or from weapon caches around the area. You have upgrades to your suit that give you extra grenades or cooldown times on those grenades, or the abilities that you pick up, a 4 times damage, last longer, but stuff like that. You can also pick up Argent Energy, which allows you to upgrade your suit, which is your health, armor, and your ammo that you can carry. And then there's the weapon upgrade aspect of it, which is what I really liked. It's kind of a lot of malarkey sometimes, where it's a lot of them are secret based, where you have to find these particular things so that you can upgrade your suit correctly, so that you can benefit from a playstyle that you want to benefit from. They are super helpful because as the game does progress, like I was talking about with those bigger enemies, those upgrades do become important because obviously you need to last longer in fights and be able to do more damage, which is where the weapon stuff comes in. I found those to be the most helpful. Having the heavy machine gun at its maximum power was incredibly helpful at the end because it's explosive rounds and you're doing more damage if you're shooting it through the scope. And I liked the way that worked. You can do a good job at mixing up your weapons. So You have a little plasma rifle or pulse rifle, whatever they call it. You can fire a stun shot. That'll stun an enemy. If you switch it to your little beam rifle thing, I can't remember what they call it, but you can fire a very high-powered shot while that enemy is frozen. Maybe take out some of the bigger enemies that way. There's a lot of different combinations that you can work with. I found that very interesting. And as the weapons get more powerful, it makes you that much more deadly to the demons around you. The game was just a super fun time to play. The game ran really well. It's beautiful. It looks great. It has a terrific sound design, a magnificent soundtrack by Mick Gordon. The sounds are super goopy and glorpy and just gross. The soundtrack really kicks up in those fights and you just feel awesome. It is a perfect fit for the Doom universe. The game ran well except for the one time where it glitched weirdly. For some reason, there was a spot that the game had a lot of trouble figuring out what I was supposed to do. This game is very directed. You almost always have an objective on your screen and a marker on the top HUD right where I'm pointing, and it always has a little diamond to where you need to go. Cool. There's a part where you have to blow up like 4 coolants so that you can shut something down for whatever reason, but every time you blow up one of the coolants, it spawns more enemies, and it does like 4 waves, right? So what's weird is I got through all of that. I took care of all of the enemies in the area, and the game didn't give me any sort of direction, which doesn't make sense because this game is always giving you a direction to go. So that's really odd. So I tried it again, just reloaded the checkpoint, did the same thing, and was like, I cannot figure this out. Like, I'm starting to get really irritated at this point. Look up a walkthrough, and the way the walkthrough describes it, it sounds like as soon as you get that last enemy, a thing should pop up where someone's talking to you, giving you directions into to where you need to go next. And I was like, this is just not working. Is there an enemy that like got glitched or fell through the world or something like just bizarre happened that I'm not even seeing? And so I reloaded it a third time and did it pretty much the same, maybe a little slower or more methodical, and it magically worked. And I don't know exactly what I did differently aside from taking it slower. I don't know if like the first 2 attempts I was just going too quickly and it was just losing track of what it was. I don't know. But it was the only time that the game actively had a problem. The game is really great. I liked it a whole lot. It made me super amped for Doom Eternal. I can't wait to play that. And this was absolutely worth the time I spent with it. It took me about 10 hours to complete, which is a good solid campaign length. I loved its focus on gameplay and just being an awesome first-person shooter. There's enough of a story to pull you through. If you want more, you have that option with codex entries and things of that nature, so it can flesh out that world for you, and you can get that more story-based experience should you so choose. But for me, the way it was set up and not reading any of the codexes was totally perfect. It's a great campaign. It has a little bit of everything. It has weapon upgrades, it has armor upgrades, it has ability upgrades, it has codex entries to flesh out the world, it has awesome action, a great soundtrack, terrific sound design, fast, fluid, and most of all, fun. It's awesome, and you should play it. It's on Xbox Game Pass, so what are you waiting for? Get doomed. Or, wait, rip and tear. Our second item on this week's show is the much more current Extraordinary, and this is going to get the Sean Ass movie stamp of approval, and I knew very quickly that I was going to totally love this movie, and I really did. It is really weird and quirky and has a different style and pace of humor that really worked for me and I thoroughly enjoyed. It's a pretty simple story of a woman named Rose. She is a driving instructor who has a past in dealing with ghosts and things of that nature. She doesn't want to deal with that part. She just wants to be a driving teacher. But when a gentleman calls and under false pretenses asks for a driving lesson, she kind of gets pulled back into that world of the paranormal sort of thing. It is a horror comedy, so you can probably pretty easily guess that it would fit next to Shaun of the Dead. But for me, I actually found the better comparison to be What We Do in the Shadows. Something about the pace and the style, just I was like, man, this is very What We Do in the Shadows. All 3 of those movies are absolutely fantastic movies, and I love them all very dearly. But this movie is really fun and unique, and even when I was like, oh, I know which direction they're going with this story, or I see where they're going with this plot line, or you get that like inkling in your head of like, okay, I get the like emotional thing that someone's going to have to overcome. They tweak it and they mess with it just enough to make it feel fresh and interesting. So even though there are parts of it that are predictable, they still throw you a little bit of a curveball. And I thought that was just really fun. The actors do a tremendous job of making you really like these characters and enjoy them. They're all very funny in their roles, and this includes Will Forte. And the reason I bring him up is because he does feel a little bit out of place. He is obviously an American actor. This movie is set in Ireland, and it has an odd feel to it. It reminds me of when they put Danny DeVito in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like, somebody was like, fuck, we really need name recognition here so that we can put cheeks in the seats. That's what this feels like. I think they write him in very well. It makes sense why he is the way he is, and why he is where he is, both emotionally and like physically. It's interesting. I really like his performance. I really like him, but something about it just feels weird. And for me, if I had seen this trailer, because this movie actually was advertised to me through a YouTube video that I watched, they sponsored a behind the scenes video of this, actually a Funhouse video. Thankfully I wore that hat today, not intentional. But they sponsored that, and that got my attention, and I probably would have seen it regardless of if Will Forte was in there or not, because that's just kind of the movie goer I am. I would have watched the trailer for this, been like, oh, I like quirky indie comedies, and I would have been there. I know that's not everybody, and I know why he's in this movie, or I think I know why he's in this movie, but it is one of those things of like, you could have cast someone different, and it wouldn't have necessarily taken anything away from what it does. And what it does is does things very well. There are several times that the movie does like a very Simpsons-esque joke of like, it's really funny, it's not funny, now it's back to hilarious. Long sequences of someone like taking off gloves that are just hysterical to me, and the slowest car chase I think I have ever seen in a film. Oh god, it's so good. I just found this to be a tremendously enjoyable, easy to watch movie. It just wants to be a fun horror comedy. I think it excels at that. I enjoyed the characters. I liked the situations. I thought it was a very funny movie. There are quippy one-liners. There are long jokes that I found hilarious. This is a Sean-ass movie. I don't know how many times I can say it, but man, this is a movie that just feels like it is made specifically for me, and I loved it. Finally, on this week's show, we'll look forward to this week's new releases, and there's not a whole lot going on. The Blu-rays were pretty barren. The Daniel Craig James Bond movies are getting re-released in 4K. Richard Jewell and Black Christmas are out, but there wasn't really anything terribly noteworthy. There's nothing in theaters because all the movies have been delayed indefinitely. But fortunately, there are two very big games coming out this week. Doom Eternal is finally here, and I'm very excited to jump into that. I'm also excited to check out Animal Crossing New Horizons, a game that I probably wouldn't be terribly interested in if I hadn't played Stardew Valley a couple years ago. I really fell in love with Stardew Valley. I'm looking forward to trying Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm totally in on this game. I'm all in. We're going to be opening amiibo packs, card packs. We're going to be checking out some of the amiibo figures that I bought. I am super excited for this game, and as a bonus, I'm going to be doing that as a Thursday late night stream, so it'll probably start around 9 to 9:15, somewhere in there. Opening those amiibo packs, check out the amiibos, gonna have a good time, check out the first couple hours of the game, and really dive in and see what the game has to offer. On Friday, we're going to be doing a stream of Sea of Thieves, celebrating the 2-year anniversary of that game. Other than that, the streams are kind of barren. I didn't plan anything because I was supposed to actually be out of town in Seattle, but obviously that is not a viable thing to do right now, which is a weird segue into talking about how the reviews might be kind of weird here on Week in Review over the next couple of weeks, especially from the movie side. Fortunately, the games are looking pretty okay. We have Animal Crossing coming out this week, so that'll be on next week's show. Doom will be on the following episode, which I believe posts on April 1st. Then it'll be April 7th will be quarter 1 in review. And then I'll check out some first impressions of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So the game side of things looks okay for the next couple of weeks, but all the movies getting delayed because of the virus going around has put my content in kind of a weird spot. So you might see some weirder reviews, some older movies, or like some random games or comic books or something in place of those. I don't really have a great idea of what to do with it. So I'm open to suggestions. I was looking at maybe trying to cover some of the stuff that I missed last year. So Dolomite Is My Name would be a good place to start. Good Boys would be a good place to start. It's just the next couple of weeks here. Might be a little little bit of a odd pace to it, but hopefully this content is good and you enjoy it, and it can offer you a little bit of a distraction from some of the outside stuff. I try to make my content be that way, to be an escape, to be a distraction for just a little bit, help your mind maybe focus on something a little bit different for a little while. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked this episode of Week in Review, you can scroll on down and you can hit that subscribe button, and then ring that bell so you can see this dorky face when he puts up new videos. If you want to leave me a comment down below, you can scroll on down and leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought of Doom 2016. You can tell me what you thought of Extraordinary. Be sure to check out the streams over on twitch.tv/Shawnosaurus on Thursday and Friday. And as always, check back every Tuesday for more Week in Review right here. We'll see you next week.